Okay, today we have a special guest with us, Reggie Koh. He's a bit of a celebrity, I think. But Reggie Koh is a very interesting guy. Plus, he has an amazing podcast called The Financial Coconut.
Yep.
And we'll speak more about the podcast, but I love what he's doing. He's building content around financial literacy for young people to to better understand their financial situation, make plans, etc. So I think it's a very, very important topic. But before we dive into that, Reggie, I was sort of going through your LinkedIn, and
What do you see?
Well, I was okay. Maybe
I'm
before
getting
I start asking questions, maybe you can tell us a bit about your background, like where you're from, where did you go to school, what careers have you had, how did you then stumble into doing the financial literacy project?
Okay.
And I would love you to touch on the fact that you are also an author that has written a book.
Dude. Yeah.
So yeah,
that was like
take it away.
Okay, I don't know. I don't really want to be known as an author. Is it still on my LinkedIn? It's still on my LinkedIn.
It says you're an author. So
okay, I'm gonna remove that. But it's
great.
just like a pet project. It was just fun. At that point in time, I was traveling. So then I was in Korea and I was having very bad diarrhea, and then I was like cuddling in bed in the winter. I was like, dude, I must record this whole thing, right? like I'm here and I was drunk for 5 days, trying to do business with Koreans.
Right.
And it was so bad because two Koreans, one guy knows a little bit Mandarin, the other guy knows a little bit English, and then I know a little bit of them, right? So I try to talk to this guy in Mandarin, and then he's like, yeah, I think I understand. Then he translates to the other guy.
Right.
So it was like just back and forth and many days of that. So it's really tiring.
So this is like a memoir, or in a way, you're sort of writing down your experiences of travel.
Yeah, I was traveling, and then I was just writing down my thoughts, and just kind of, how do I put it? At that point in time, I felt like I was propagating how I live a life.
Right. So you did traveling. So you travel. You did solo traveling for a while.
Years, yeah. For
right.
A few years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you're Singaporean from Singapore.
Yeah. Pretty standard childhood. Good schools, drop out. Right. So.
Oh.
Yeah. So
let's talk about the dropout.
Yeah.
So you went to NUS.
Yeah. NUS business. Yeah. I dropped out after a year, and amalgamation of reasons. Right. Like one of it was because I felt like I was being forced to school, right? So every Singaporean son has to do like 2 years of NS, right?
Right.
National service, and during the 2 years, many things happen. I'll touch on that later. But the main thing was, I didn't want to go to school anymore. I felt like I needed some time to think and reevaluate life and just kind of rediscover, But then my family went on a rampage, and it's like every time we gathered, whether it's an event or an activity, it's just family gathering, I get bombarded. It's like, why aren't you going to school? Why aren't you going to school? And it's like all my aunts, I didn't even know you I don't even know you that well.
Right.
It's like a very, like
the pressure is high.
Oh,
education, but it's a good thing, right? Or do you think that's a bit pressure pushed?
Yeah, because my thought was I want to take a break. I want to reevaluate it, right? Before I decide if I want to go back to school again, right? But come on, like 2 years of that was pretty crazy. At the end of that 2 years, I didn't want to go to any family gatherings anymore. I didn't want to participate in any of the activities.
Right, because you were sick of answering the question why you're not in school.
Yeah, and it's not even like questions. It's like very
judgments.
Yeah, and very like passive aggressive kind of thing. It's like, school's not bad, blah blah blah. But truth be told, none of them went to school. Right? None of them went to the university. So their pitch sucked. Like, is it okay if I? Oh yeah.
Okay,
okay, cool. Yeah. So their pitch was terrible, right? Because they've not been to school. All they can tell me were their fears. Like, when I'm working, and I don't have a degree, I don't get promoted, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, that's true in your life, but that doesn't sell to me.
Right.
Right. So they're very bad at selling it. I just feel very pressured by it, gave in. Right. So then
you dropped out, and then you went traveling, or
So I dropped out. I tried a few different businesses. None of them really worked. I went to work in China for a friend, and then I had it was my real first job, and I was so bad at handling with management. So I was just like, it's like, this is how things should be done, right?
What kind of business was it?
So they were doing cryptocurrency actually at a point in time, Bitcoin trading, right? So they just need me to go there and just kind of manage the presentation and all this kind of stuff, right?
So that's interesting. How did that come about? I mean, what year is this?
Wow, 5?
So okay, it's about 5 years ago.
5 years ago, when it was still relatively new thing.
Yeah, crypto trading was relatively new, I suppose. And so then, how did you stumble? Did you meet some folks in Singapore who were working at a crypto exchange or mining? Or
Yeah, so it was mostly miners, right? My friend, Singaporeans, they did something there, and then they were like, hey, you want to kind of help us, I think there is still at that point in time, I mean, today is still very prevalent, but there's limited trust with the local Chinese.
Right.
Like we're a business relationship, right?
Right.
But you still want to put people that you trust on the ground.
Right.
Right. So I was just one of those guys that was just kind of put on the ground.
Right.
Like,
so they trusted you. They were like, hey, here's a stand-up dropout.
Yeah.
Let's send him to China.
Yeah, let's send him to China and see what he can do. Oh, of course, my Mandarin is pretty good.
Okay.
Right.
So that helped.
That helps, right? Of course, it became a lot better when I was there, because you cannot really speak, with an ounce of English or any other language. So it's like you can say blah 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 and blah 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 blah.
Right.
And then the Chinese will be like, "What did you just say?"
Right.
So it has to be pure Mandarin, right? So
and what city or what region of China?
I was mostly in Shenzhen.
In Shenzhen, and so that must have been a very interesting experience working in the crypto field in Shenzhen 5 years ago. Do you want to share some stories?
Actually, I'm not like the tech guy in the space, right? Like, so of course, if you meet the techies, they have very interesting stuff to share with you, what's going on. But at that point in time, I was very much just interacting with potential investors and customers and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
So it was, I can come from the angle of like educating these guys, right? And dude, I didn't know much. I was just kind of following the script, right? The company gave me a script, this is what you need to say, and I was like, oh, okay, blah, blah, blah. Whatever questions, I just relayed back. But what I observed with the Chinese was that they're actually very open to new ideas, right? So, I mean, you can say all sorts of reasons why China is China today, but I think one of the main reasons is, the hunger is very real.
Right.
Right. People really want to learn, and, they bring you their friends to just kind of challenge your notion and just kind of make sure it works for you, right? So what is important at that point in time was I learned a whole new way of business, right? Because that is their way of, a lot of people say China, is a different place, but it's more like a whole new place, right?
Right. So that must have been, I guess, is Shenzhen the sort of capital of crypto activity in China, or is it sort of dispersed in different cities?
I think Shenzhen was the capital of hardware.
Gotcha.
Right. So so all sorts of hardware, all in Shenzhen. They have like a whole chain of like e-waste and recycling, and so then they do all these different hardware technologies. You can go there and build your own laptop, build your own rig, build your own mines, everything, right? So, and
is China still sort of the leader in crypto mining in the world?
I'm not like in the space now, so I'm not very sure. But I think there's still. I have some friends that are trading, and they told me that based on the chain, they still see a lot of activity, mostly in China, Korea, Japan.
Right. Yeah. So then after China, working with some crazy people in Shenzhen in the crypto world, then did you come back to Singapore?
So after China, I actually went to Taiwan for travel, right? So I had a fit with the management. I was like, I'm gonna leave this place, right? So when I was about to buy an air ticket back to Singapore, I was like, hey, let's check out somewhere else, right? So
it's right there.
It's right there, right? So like TripAdvisor, I know, like what's that, Skyscanner, right? Anywhere, right? So then I flew to Taiwan.
Yeah.
when I was in Taiwan, it was my first backpacking experience.
Mm-hmm.
So then it was really cool because on the second day when I was in Taiwan, my phone was flat, right? Like no battery,
Mm-hmm.
so it just died on me, right? And I spent a whole day out without a phone.
Hey, that seems like a strange world.
Yeah, and it felt so weird because I was sniffing the flowers on the streets.
Yeah, you were in the moment, present.
Yeah, I was like, wow, the streets are so nice, right? All the lights are so,
and Taiwan's
beautiful.
fun.
Taiwan's
Taipei,
amazing.
were you in Taipei?
Taipei.
Great
yes.
city to backpack.
Yes, great city for backpacking. Very, very nice people. Good food, very energetic, relatively affordable. So everything kind of adds up.
Yeah,
and
people speak English, so it's easy to get around.
Yeah, I speak Mandarin.
Right.
I can do Hokkien.
Yeah.
So
whatever
they do,
you were flying high.
I'm like, ooh, Taiwan, right?
Yeah.
So that's that. It was fine, and that was kind of the pivotal point where I felt like, hey, I need to connect with myself a little more, right? So after that, then I spent the next few days intentionally without a phone. So I started traveling, and just kind of experiencing that kind of interesting dynamics, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Right.
But then I only gave myself 10 days because the tickets, I already bought the tickets. So I came back, and shortly after I pack up again, and I went out again.
And this time, where did you go? Did you go? Is that when you moved to Malaysia?
No, Malaysia is very recent, right? So I can't remember exactly when I go.
But you were in Asia, so you were
Mostly
backpacking in Asia.
Right? Yeah, China, Korea, Japan, Asia, Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
And then my last stop was Malaysia. I stayed in Malaysia for about a year.
So I was listening to one of your podcasts, and it was about why Singaporeans, I think you were making a case why Singaporeans should move to KL. And I loved that episode because, why not, right? In terms of cost of living, in terms of proximity, it makes a lot of sense. And it reminds me of, currently digital nomadism is becoming
it's a thing.
A very popular sort of concept, which makes a lot of sense. And you have Americans moving to, say, Tulum in Mexico. It's becoming a hub for digital nomads. People from the north of Europe are moving down south because the weather is better. So, what's happening with Singaporeans living in Malaysia?
Actually, not much is happening. So if you travel to KL, you don't see a lot of Singaporeans actually. Right? So mostly people in the backpacker hostels are still, foreigners, right? Europeans, actually a lot of Europeans, some Asians, but predominantly Europeans, right? So they'll come here and they'll take KL as a hub, and then they will travel around Southeast Asia to KL because AirAsia's hub is there, so tickets are real cheap, right? But if you talk about people swimming upstream to KL and really
not much happening.
So not much is happening.
Right.
Yeah.
So what made you move to KL, and what was that experience like? And are you still sort of based there?
Yeah. So physically, I'm back here for now because of the lockdown, right? So, cute story. I thought the lockdown in KL is going to be a short while, and Singapore was still functioning at the point in time, 1st April, so April Fools, right? And then I was like, okay, I'll come back just for a while, and situation there settled. When they open up, I'll be back.
Right.
But turns out, when I was back, 2 weeks later, they announced, oh, we're going lockdown.
So you've been here since?
I've been here since. Yeah. So that's that.
And do you like living in KL?
Yeah, I do like it. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It's a little bit different because I don't drive, so it's not built for pedestrians, right? So the roads, the pedestrian pathways there are central around the train stations,
right?
But it doesn't go too far out, right? So it's like, Singapore, a lot of pedestrian centric kind of design, same in Japan, same in Korea, Taiwan,
right?
Even Thailand, right?
Yeah.
But not in KL, not in Malaysia.
Yeah,
right?
There's not a lot of sidewalks. It's not like you can go for a run in the city and be safe and not have to go on the main roads.
Yeah,
right?
So you quite literally have to be on the road shoulder.
Yeah.
Right. So
this is one of the reasons why I moved out of Bangkok, because there's two things I miss or I don't miss about Bangkok. One is I don't miss the fact that there's no sidewalks. So you can't just go for a run, right? Like in Singapore, you can just go for a run anywhere. The other thing is drinking water. It's not like you can drink from the tap, right?
Yeah.
Those two things I just felt was, after a while, got so annoying, and that was a big reason for me to move. But when you were in KL, is that when Financial Coconut started, or why did you start it, and how did it get started?
Yeah, so when I was in my teens, I was actually part of like a scam, like a financial scam.
Oh.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons why I left school. It's not just because of parents forcing me, but because I thought that the scam was my hope, to kind of be financially, free for whatever you define it.
What was the scam?
They were trying to do, okay, I don't want to go into too much details, I don't want to get shit, right? But general idea is they were trying to raise money for private investments, right? Quote unquote private investments. But it turns out that it was like a Ponzi, right? And it was a shit show, for like a better way to put it. And I spent a few years, over there, right? And for the first year, I thought, yeah, man, this thing is cool. Then the second year, I was like, what the hell's going on?
But the scam was here in Singapore.
So I was in Singapore.
So this is not 1MD.
No,
this is like a smaller scale.
Yeah. I don't know Jolo yet. It's like,
hey, that book is awesome.
Hey.
The $1 billion whale.
No, I didn't read it.
Oh, it's a whole book about the Jolo
really?
case. Yeah, it's called I have it. I'll send it to you. $1 billion whale.
Awesome.
It's like I hope someone makes a movie out of it.
I'm sure. I mean, they did take the money to make Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
So
no, but this story of Jolo is it's insane. It's
nuts.
It's like a movie in the making. But anyways, let's come back to, so you got scammed in Singapore, and it was like a small scale.
Yeah, it's relatively small scale, but in my life it was big scale, right? Because I centered my life around it.
Right.
So then it became quite a nagging thing in my head, right? It's like, oh fuck, scams. Right. And so when I was in KL, so fast forward all the way after traveling, shifting to KL, right? So when I was in KL, I didn't have much to do because there's just nothing much to do. I shifted there not because I wanted to live in KL, but because I wanted to leave Singapore, right? So it was between Bangkok, Ho Chi Minh, KL. I was like, let's do KL. I got my friends there, it's close, affordable. So I was like, okay, let's do it, right? So when I was there, I didn't much do. I thought I had a lot of friends, but turns out that once you live there, you're kind of like a local. So there's no more tourist premium. When you're a tourist and you come to like whichever country, your friends make time for you.
Right.
But now you're local, you line up with everyone else.
Yeah.
Right. So you gotta schedule, a month later, 2 months later, I'm busy now. So I became one of the many. I was like, damn, nothing to do now, right? So then I decided to do Airbnb. I have extra room, right? So then I had a lot of guests that came in because I was charging real cheap, mostly just to interact with them. And every one of them came in and was like, hey, you're so young, why aren't you doing anything? Hey, you're so young, why aren't you doing anything? And then I met some other friends, same thing. Hey, you're so young, why aren't you doing anything? I was like, dude, okay, I'll do something, right? So then I have a microphone, and I just kind of attached to it, and I've already been listening to some podcasts. I was like, let me just talk about something, and then really bothered by those YouTube ads, like the hey, learn this tested proven system.
Oh right, like the scam gurus.
Yeah, that's kind of internet gurus, right? So I was really bothered by them. So I was like, hey,
I'm standing in front of my Bentley,
but they're never inside. They're never ever inside the Bentley, right? They're just next to it, right?
Yeah.
So really annoyed by it. So I decided that okay, I'll just record my thoughts about how finance work in some ways, for me at least.
Right. And did you study finance?
No.
And so, because I've been listening to your podcasts, there's a lot of, you discuss a lot of very, I would say, the topics that require knowledge, right? Like things like Reits and things like retirement saving accounts. I mean, you're discussing a lot of topics. So how did you learn about all these things?
So you just kind of pick it up along the way, of course, right? But when I was in China, I made some money, right? And I didn't know what to do with the money. So I came back, and I have a friend who actually has been investing in the stock market, right? So then I just asked him, can you just teach me? Right? And he was like, sure, teach you, right? So then I learned the basics from there, started making some money. I was like, oh, okay. And then over time, of course, it just keeps evolving, and
right.
every time I face something like a challenge, and I will just kind of tweak the solution to work around it. So it's been a 5 years in the making kind of thing, right? So you learn, and then bam, you just decide to record, and then everything just keeps coming out.
Yeah.
Right. So.
But you sort of naturally gravitated towards doing a podcast on financial literacy, maybe partly because you had this experience of going through some sort of a scam when you were very young.
Yep.
So that probably left some scar tissues, and you were annoyed by the right. So you chose this topic specifically because you felt like you had something to say about this and you could make a difference.
Yeah. So that was predominantly kind of what I wanted to do. It was just like a platform for me to talk and rant and just kind of share my thoughts. Like, hey, no, this is how it is. Right? Like, stop listening to the gurus.
Yeah.
But by episode 20, it took on kind of like a life of its own because more and more people asking questions, and we had more and more listeners. It's no longer like that 50 people listening to me blabber. Right. So then, over time, it started to change in a sense that it became more like a platform of its own rather than just me, right? So it's becoming more and more of itself, right? So then we gotta be a lot more responsible in what we say, more congruent, more research, less just blabbering.
Less unscripted, but more. It's kind of like this. This is completely shooting the breeze. But so now, how long has it been since you started the podcast?
It's been a year.
And you've done 60 plus episodes. And how many listeners, subscribers do you have?
We have about 8,700 people. I think thereabout,
And they're all based here in Singapore?
Mostly in Singapore,
And what's your, now that this thing has a life of its own, what's your plans with the podcast?
Okay, so we reached that point quite a few months ago, deciding whether do we want to double down in terms of content depth, right? Because there's only so much you can say after a while, right? And we were at a crossroad to decide that, do we want to, funnel even deeper stuff into the platform? And we felt like it's gonna ostracize some people that, they just want to learn, the broader way of managing finances and not like how to pick a stock, or like how to go deep down and find the best property investment, that kind of stuff. So we decided to keep the Financial Coconut as this like entry podcast. You come in, you have fun, learn a little bit every week, participate in the conversation, and just kind of impacts your life over time. And build a whole network of shows that will focus on the other stuff, right? So we're gonna build a property podcast called the Coconut Avenue, where it's gonna be focused on like picking properties, the different kind of property strategies. So we're talking to all these property investors and not salespeople, right? Because the property space at this point in time is predominantly, dominated by the salespeople, right? So a lot of agents have the loudest voices, right? So we're trying to establish this podcast to be that voice for investors and not agents, right? And we are building a entrepreneurship one, because a lot of people want to learn about that, and we're also building like a freelancer one, to help freelancers become better freelancers, financially savvy freelancers, right? So a little bit of stuff here and there. So we're going to grow a network. Going to keep this show as a comfortable entry, fun show, and then we're going to build a whole network of other shows. So
it sounds like you want to. It started off as sort of an idea. You ranting about your pains in a microphone in an apartment in KL. This thing started taking a life of its own, and now you see an opportunity for this to become a real sort of an education platform with different verticals. And really educating young people on various different aspects of life, and not just investments.
Because I think we do come from a point where we don't think, at least I don't think that you should manage your finances independent of from your life, right? So you really got to look at how you live, question your beliefs, question your fundamentals. And that informs your finances. How do you spend? How do you do things, right? And it's like one thing. It's like how a lot of people keep telling you to save money, right? Save, save, save. And the reality is, everyone knows cognitively, we know the benefit of saving, right? But why aren't people saving? You know, then that is a lot more about, you know, their money story, you know, their behaviorals, you know, which goes deeper into whether can they control their spending, right? Do they have the cognitive ability, or are they doing, you know, are they splurging to manage their emotional, you know, issues, right? So it's like how people overeat, some people use retail therapy, and those kind of stuff. So it's a lot more complicated than, hey, why aren't you saving? Because cognitively, I believe a lot of people understand and recognize the value of saving.
Yeah, you know, this is such a deep topic, because I don't know if this is the case in Singapore, but so I went to schools in the U.S. and the truth is, in like high school or university, personal finances are really not taught. Like it's such an important thing that's not really taught, which I find fascinating. Like, why is that not really taught, right? Because that's such a useful application of your day-to-day life. Is that the case in Singapore, where personal finances, right, is probably not taught in university?
Yeah, it's not taught all the way, right? It's people don't talk about it, and I used to question why until I started doing this. Yeah, and then I'll be like, okay, now I kind of get why people don't talk about it.
Why is that?
Because it's really complicated in the sense that, you know, it's not like science. It's fixed. You know, it's not like, okay, maybe not fixed. Okay, all you scientists out there, I get it. We're always innovating and pushing, but there are certain, you know, agreed upon, you know, basis or like history, things that's already happened, right? So when you're doing things like finance, then we really got to see how far to draw the line, right? Are we looking from an economic viewpoint, the broader macro trends, and then you zoom down into the personal level, and then how much to teach these guys, right? And it's someone actually asked me, so you do a financial literacy podcast, right? How do you determine someone is financially literate?
Right.
And I was like,
yeah. How do you?
Good question. Right.
So, because they may be very good academically, they may be able to sort of explain things, but they may not be applying that practically in life, right?
Yeah.
You know, so many questions for you. One of them is, I thought it was really refreshing because I was browsing through your podcast, and you had a friend of yours from Noma. He's a chef that works in, you know, he's a traveling chef, but now he's in Europe, in like a really nice, probably one of the world's best
he's back
restaurants.
In KL now.
Oh, he's back in KL.
But he was working in Noma, yes.
But you brought him on to talk about his life, but also you asked him questions about how does he manage his finances, which is very interesting, because that's appealing. Like, I would listen to that, because you're bringing in like this human character into it. Which is, are you going to be doing more of those, or?
Yeah, we want to do that, because honestly, I think a lot of the finance content out there are too dry, too technical, and too boring, right? So people, okay, so someone asked me, like, can someone be financially literate just listening to us? And I'll be like, maybe not, right? Because there's just so many components. Right. But where we stand is we are trying to engage people in the conversation, right? Because there are already tons of good, very technical kind of content, whether it's blogs or books. They've done a good job, right, breaking down the details, you know. But people are not talking about it. It's just not fun, not engaging, not interesting enough, right? So when we bring, you know, a different spin into it, right? Like talking to my friend, you know, wait, what is his name? Joel, yes. Joel, hi. yes, it's been a while we met, yes. So bring Joel on, you know, to talk about the way he manages his money while he was here, and how was life there, and, you know, it really gives a more applicable and approachable element to finance. Right, and that was like the real fun part.
I think so. I think that's I think it makes it more interesting, because you're combining lifestyle and individual characters who are doing cool things, adventurous, crazy, wild dudes to come in and talk about finance, and they may not have it all together, but the conversation involving these people makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
The other question I had was just regarding podcasts, because I'm a huge consumer of podcasts. I listen to probably 6 or 7 different types of podcasts, like religiously. Every time I go run, I'm listening to a podcast. And
Are you listening to us now?
Well, I will. Actually,
Okay.
the one I
Okay.
want to listen to is the one, you have one on like universities, why you should not go to university, or the conversation is you're talking to someone who is for like you should go to university because it's a social phenomena, and you're sort of like questioning that. So I want to listen to that one. And actually I have questions around that. But in terms of podcasts, I noticed that all the podcasts I listen to, all the hosts are from the US. And not one single podcast I listen to are characters or hosts who are from Europe or Asia. And maybe that's just because of my cultural upbringing. I know these like characters having grown up in the US. But how is the podcast landscape in Southeast Asia?
Okay, so I don't dare to speak for Southeast Asia.
Right.
But just on the Singapore landscape, you realize that in Singapore, the guys on the charts are mostly guys from like YouTube. They're trying to spin off something, on Instagram. They're trying to spin off something, and then they do it, right? So generally, the content is either built around a personality,
right?
Or built around like just gossips, like what is happening in the market now, what is happening recently, right? In the news, something happened, people talk about it. So so that kind of content is it's a fair start, but I do think we need to go deeper to have people talk about like politics, finance, history, those kind of like more vertical kind of.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think the podcasts in Singapore are very much sort of like low-hanging gossip kind of lifestyle, easy sort of conversational stuff, and nothing deep?
Exactly. The word is easy.
Right.
All right. The word is easy. It's like two of us. We can bring up a mic and we can just start talking, right? About hey, you saw this guy, something happened, blah blah blah. Everybody have a good laugh, and then move on, right? And I also think the other phenomenon is because it's not very easy to monetize it yet. Right. So if it's not easy to monetize it in Singapore yet, then it is very challenging for people to really put in a lot of work. Right. I mean, some of the podcasts that I listen to, like Freakonomics, right?
Yeah.
It's I love the podcast.
Yeah.
But it's backed by a school.
Right. It's part of NPR, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
And Stitcher.
Right.
Some of them, right? So it's backed by a big VC, right? And the other one, the Science of Happiness, it's backed by UCLA, right? So they have the budget to do it. It's part of their marketing budget to like hire the host, do the post, and everything, and it just works, right? But if you want to talk about detailed content, things that are like deeper, then you really got to spend the work, finding these people, right? And getting guests is a very, very tedious process.
So I'm guessing there's like two components. One is the business model, which makes a lot of sense. The other one is sort of like a cultural, social phenomena, behavior, consumer behavior. I think podcasts are becoming more and more popular around the world because let's say if I have an iPhone, it's easy, right? Like you've got the podcast app, it's loaded in, no friction. Search is easy, so the delivery is very accessible, right? If you have an iPhone, but if you don't, if you have an Android phone, it doesn't have the podcast ecosystem in there.
I mean, there's Spotify.
There's Spotify. That's true.
Spotify is the leader in podcasts. So just for you guys out there,
you're on Spotify.
I'm gonna let you know who is coming. Like, Spotify drives 65% of my audience.
So they do the ads. They're driving.
So because what happens in podcasting is you record and you put it on the host platform, right? So then the host distributes to everybody, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever, right? So Spotify drives 60%, 65% of the audience, right? So
To your podcast.
to my podcast,
Right.
and I would expect that's generally the numbers, right? Because
Right.
because on Apple we are even higher on the charts. So on Apple, I think we are like top 10. On Spotify, we're top 20. So it's,
In Singapore.
yeah, in Singapore.
Right.
Right. So top 20, 65%. You can
Yeah.
imagine how much more are they like driving to the other guys, right?
Wow.
So Spotify is actually the leader in the podcast game. A lot of people don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I know that because I listen to Joe Rogan, and he's made the headlines because Spotify brought him on board,
Yeah.
paid him a lot of money.
Yeah.
So that's been a celebrity podcast host
Yeah.
that's gone to Spotify. But even before that, it was clear that Spotify wanted to they bought a podcast company,
Gimlet.
I think.
$200 million for Gimlet. Yes.
Right, and which makes a lot of sense for
Yeah.
Spotify to become. So in Singapore, Spotify has a pretty huge presence, right?
Yeah.
And do you speak to them, or do you know any of the guys at the company?
No, actually, I don't. Right. So maybe Spotify should
Hey,
say
Spotify,
hi.
you
Yeah, say
should-
hi.
Yeah,
Right?
Singapore's one and only
Yeah, one and
financial
only. Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
literacy podcast.
Yeah, maybe
No,
you should buy us. Yeah, after we grow our network.
Right.
Yeah.
But I know you're joking, but I think there's something here because you started a year ago of you ranting in a microphone. Now you are top 10 on
Apple,
podcasts
yeah.
on Apple in Singapore and
yeah.
top 20 in
Spotify,
on Spotify in Singapore.
Yeah.
So clearly there's a huge opportunity here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so do you see in Singapore massive opportunity in good quality podcast content on like certain verticals?
Yeah. So what happens is there's a reason why we are building all these other shows, because advertisers are coming to us and telling us, hey, do you know where we can go to put our ads?
Right.
Right. So because we're only doing personal finance, we have guys knocking on our doors that are doing like, digital corporate banking, or like certain softwares to help freelancers do certain things. Right?
Right.
There's a reason why we pick all these topics. We
Yeah.
have information.
Yeah.
Right. And there is an absence of these shows and platforms for people to put their ads.
Yeah.
So essentially, there is a market and there is a room for you to actually make money and grow, right?
Right.
So there is that sexy part about it,
Right.
But I think for a lot of people, they need to know a few things. Number one is podcast is a performance. It is not a chit chat blabber.
Right.
Right.
Like this.
No. It's like,
No, it's true. This is a
Yeah.
chat lab. Right.
Fair, okay, but no, it's like you have a certain personality, I have a certain personality, we can vibe,
Right.
we can lay on each other, so that's very comfortable, right?
Right.
But for a lot of people, it's like two friends, it's like, hey, you want to start a podcast? It's like,
Right.
okay, and then they start, and they like, oh, how's your day?
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Yeah.
cut those shit. Okay.
Well, it's work.
yeah, it's,
Right, it's technical ability.
Yeah.
It's really keeping up with what's happening in the world. It's not just shooting the breeze.
yeah,
Because you need to have conversation pieces that you can actually talk about.
Yeah.
Right, you can't just be talking about food all the time. Right, I mean, so you have to be in the sense like you're very knowledgeable because you spend a lot of time doing research. You're probably doing a lot of reading. You're probably listening to other podcasts. You're sort of very, very aware of what's happening in the world, and so you have a lot of things to say.
yeah.
And that is, I think, a difference, right? So in terms of your business model for your podcasts, is there any monetization now, or you're just building the brand and in the future you'll monetize it?
Yeah, so we are building the brand and we're also monetizing in the process, right? So a few ways of monetization. One is so at first we started without ad slots,
Right.
right? So we built the podcast just as a podcast and there were no slots,
Right.
And then as we built, people asked, and it's like, okay, let's engineer some ad slots, and now you hear some slots, right?
Right.
So
okay, so there's ads coming onto your
Yeah.
thing. Gotcha.
So that is one thing, and then the other one is affiliates, right? So some guys they like one of our affiliates, they run a program and then they want to kind of push the program, and then we work with us, and then we'll just kind of do shout outs again and again and again and see the funnel, see the conversion numbers, right? So that is the technical business side of things.
Right.
Right, but yeah, so ads, shout outs, which are affiliates, and also where we're working on branded content. Like someone wants to do certain things, they reach out to us, we run the whole thing, the research and everything for them. 1 episode, 2 episodes, it can be a whole show, but those will cost. Right, yeah.
So you're monetizing, so the business model is pretty clear in that sense. And then what about in Singapore specifically, consumer behavior or consumer interest to actually listen to podcasts?
So I think it is growing. Every day we are having more and more followers, right? So I don't know where you guys come from, but thank you. Right? It's like, I think we have like, just on Spotify alone, every day we are having about 30 to 40 followers. Yeah. Right? So it just compounds. Right. And I think there is a growing thing. Like more and more of my friends are like, hey, I told my other friend and they tell me they already listen to you. I was like, do you? Yeah.
This is, it's the reason why I'm very attracted to what you're doing is because I see so much possibility and potential, because Singapore is a financial hub of it's one of the financial hubs in the world. Like every single bank, every single wealth manager is here. It's all here. The money is here, right? It's a money center. And on average, Singaporean citizens are wealthy individuals that are probably highest GDP per capita in the world, right? On average. And I'm surprised that these financial institutions are not doing podcasts. Like, why isn't OCBC Bank, or maybe they are, but I'm not aware of.
They are. I think OCBC, most of them you're not aware of because they suck. For like a better way to put it, okay? Right. So what happens is they will get some guy in the internal, team, and I was like, hey, you want to do a podcast? Right. Okay, how about you start? Right, and then production is terrible. There's no narration. Let me just put it to you this way, okay? Nobody wants to listen to 40 minutes of advertisement. Yeah. Right. So
hell no.
Yeah. So and while we may think that it is a fresh market, there's no competition. In actuality, podcasting has no borders. Right. Right. Like you look at the charts, most of them from the US. Right. And a few local guys. Right. And that's the reality, because you got to compete with content overseas. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if you're just local, right? So the main thing is you get some local vibes, local kind of jokes. Right. People get you. It's cool. But the reality is you still need to have basic production standards. Right. Right. Like, and basic, I don't mean like basic. I mean like competing with those guys.
Yeah. But I think the reality is, so I think you're right that these podcasts quality is probably not so good. But I don't think it's only because the person doing it is not that great. I just think there's people high up, let's say the head of marketing or whatnot, they don't really understand that podcasting is a huge channel of distribution of knowledge, information, etc. I don't think they get that, because it has to come top down, right? Yes. And so I don't think the CEO of some of these big institutions, and it's not their fault, right? I mean, they're of a different generation, so they probably don't fully understand the value and the long-term value of having an education center delivered through your phone, through smart people who bring on foodies on the thing to talk about, right? To make it a very sort of conversational but also exciting and interesting dialogue, right?
Exactly, and I think we're changing. Things are happening. You can see like OCBC has one, CPF has one, so I believe we will get there eventually. We'll get there. It's just like what you said. It's a lot of them are really slow, right? And you have to try to convince them. The power of podcasting. I was like, I'm not going to convince you. I'm just going to build my own, and I'll sell it back to you.
Yeah, but that's a great opportunity. Yeah, I think it's seems like a massive opportunity.
It is.
I mean, just in Singapore in general, but I think if you sort of look around the region, like podcasts in Bahasa, or podcasts in Thai, right?
Dude, that's our plan. That's our next plan.
Really?
Like after we build this few podcasts, then we're gonna do Bahasa, we're gonna do Mandarin, we're gonna do Thai. Yeah. Right. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're gonna build
Vietnamese, right? Any local country languages in Asia. I think it's okay. Switching gears a little bit, coming back to the content of financial literacy, how much are you thinking about crypto or Bitcoin education in your curriculum?
I won't call it curriculum, but
in your conversations.
Yeah, my conversation. So I'm struggling because at this point in time, I've not really met people that are like I really think they understand, or some of them just feels too salesy. You know,
Right.
like it's like everyone is a Bitcoin bull.
Right.
You know, I've not found a bear, right?
Right.
Or bears are just bear. You know, they don't really share the case. They don't build the stuff. They're not able to give you like a educational kind of rounded view.
Right.
Right. So at this point in time, it's still like happy if anyone is a crypto pro and you want to talk to us. We're happy to connect. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's a topic that is very relevant, right? Because the world is going through massive inflation. Every government is printing money, and if you look at financial instruments as a hedge against the inflation that is happening all over the world, including Singapore, what options are out there in the world, right? There's not many options. Like real estate is really not an inflation hedge in today's environment, right? Bonds, like 0% interest rates. Well, at least in the West. I think in Asia the interest rates are much higher.
Yeah.
But what are the real investment opportunities of this decade, of this, right? Like there's very few that you would say like, wow, this is a great potential.
Yeah. So I'm very concerned about crypto becoming like the tulip thing. You know, like everybody bounce into it and it's like, oh, it's a fad, right? Because there are some fundamentals that are very challenging on a macro level, right? So if we believe in the crypto future, then we believe in the decentralized future, and we also believe that the current people that hold central power will give up their power, right? So I honestly don't think that will happen. You know, we'll probably have a war before that happens, right? So that's kind of where I stand, right? I think that crypto can be part of the ecosystem, that they have their own ecosystem and certain people will use it. It's like a platform, people use it. Whoever that wants to use it. But to paint it in a picture that it will take over the current system of centralized, managed financials, it's pretty challenging because there's just so much interest in the current system. You know, unless there is like an uproar from beneath, and that is my view.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's a fair view, and I think that's the general consensus of most people in the world. But I still find it interesting. So, by the way, I'm not a crypto person. I am a Bitcoin person, as in like I'm very much interested in Bitcoin. I always have been. In fact, we accept Bitcoin here. And so I distill all crypto into sort of like one winner, which is sort of Bitcoin, and I find it very fascinating because I don't think people need to like put all their money into Bitcoin, but I think it's important to have exposure to an investment vehicle that is not correlated with anything else that's going on in the world, completely uncorrelated, and I just think it's a very interesting education piece or like conversation piece, right?
It is, and there is this actually, okay. So many things are correlated, right? Like what you said, right? Like even like gold, bonds, stocks, they're pretty correlated.
Yeah, it's all monetary policy, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah. So a lot of what we just kind of call it. They have all kind of been financialized, right? So they've all been built into financial instruments, right? Some that are not as correlated are like your properties or like art pieces. So those are like real world assets, right? So those are financial assets, and then there are the real world assets, right? The real assets, and then there are all those that in between that are transiting from like real assets to financial assets, like how Reits exist, like REITs, right? So Reits is in a form of like kind of like systemizing this real assets into a financial asset, right? So this is like a cycle. It always happens, right? So certain companies, they get listed and then they get privatized, right? Certain properties, they get listed and then they get privatized. So it is a whole cycle. If the market has a lot of money to make, through this instrumentalization of real world assets, then you will see more of it going there. If the market doesn't have a lot to make, then there's a lot of volatility in prices. People will privatize it. So it is a cycle, that works that way. If you talk about how Bitcoin does not work with the market, you're slowly seeing it becoming more and more instrumentalized and becoming more and more part of the market. Because market forces are joining the game.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So
there's a lot of corporate money, commercial money going into Bitcoin
exactly,
now, right? So I think I recently was reading about this publicly listed company put in $400 million into, because they have so much cash. They had $1 billion in cash, or they have $500 million in cash. So they put $400 million into Bitcoin because it was the only non-inflationary hedge they could find. Because if you're holding $500 million in cash and there's, you're losing 25% a year, that's a huge melting of the ice, right? But I'm noticing corporates putting their treasury cashes on their balance sheet into, and I think once that starts happening, it is going to commercialize it. But that's a good thing, right? Because the prices will go up and it'll become more more people will adopt it.
Fair. But it just goes through the same process like every other asset that people could find, right?
Except there's a limited supply of it.
Yeah, fair. But gold has limited supply.
How do we know?
We
don't, that's the thing. Like, we don't really know. I mean, of course, gold clearly is a very good instrument, right, for store of value. But we can't pinpoint exactly how much gold there is in the world, because a lot of it is hidden somewhere in someone's backyard or something, right? But I think Bitcoin is a digital gold because you can pinpoint exactly how much, this many coins are outstanding, these many more are getting printed or developed, and then that's it, right? So this digital gold, I think it's a very interesting concept.
Fair.
Right.
I think that's fair.
All right. Let's see. 52 minutes. Okay, we've got a couple.
It's been 52 minutes.
Yeah. So I'm trying to keep these under 60 minutes.
I didn't realize it was 50 minutes.
Time goes fast when you're having fun. But hey, I have a couple of questions left. So with your podcast, awesome job. I hope you keep building it. I hope you get support from people in Singapore for you to sort of continue to develop your ambitions, because it sounds like you have quite a big ambition for it, which I think is fantastic. What would you say is your biggest challenge in developing these in the podcasts?
At this point in time, so I thought it was very easy to create other shows, but turns out it's very difficult to find talent and arrange for guests, and it's it's pretty nuts because it's so new, right? So a lot of people don't understand. So then, you have to groom everyone, for lack of a better way to put it. Right. So you really gotta find someone that you think has potential, and then you gotta groom them and teach them. And it's not like I really know everything, so I'm kind of figuring out and teaching along the way. Right. So then that is probably one of the biggest challenge. I won't think it's about money or it's about those things are. It's not difficult to get, these days. But the main challenge is, like what you've rightly pointed out, is so new here. So there is no talent here. That's.
So if you want to do various different verticals, you need a host for a real estate vertical, and then you need a host who is, young, savvy, charismatic, funny, knowledgeable, can engage, right? And that's so that the hosting part is
because we are not doing chit chat content,
right?
We're doing vertical content, and there is a world of difference if someone knows a bit and they're trying to, it's okay. What I tell the host is, we all know that we are not the experts, okay, but we cannot be the noobs. We got to be somewhere in between so that we can communicate with the expert to translate for everyone else.
Sounds like there's an opportunity here for a podcasting school.
Yeah, probably.
Right.
So I think there I'm sure there is for a lot of education, like production, pre-production, how to articulate your voice and all those kind of stuff. Those are there. But then when it comes to really vertical content, like very specific, then it will take a lot just to kind of educate these people. So it can be a lot easier to educate someone that already knows to be a host, rather than a host to learn the vertical.
Yeah.
Right.
Who, if you had to pick one or two people that you would love on your show for you to talk to, interview, who would they be? Or let's just go with one person, or maybe two people.
So I really want to have a minister on the show, because I feel like we need to talk about policy. Because the more I look into personal finance, the more I look into all these things, I realize that it is not an individual's job only, right? Like someone has to do all these different things, becoming more savvy, learning how to invest, how to save your money, blah, 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 all this stuff. But the policies in place in the country will directly impact how certain people turn out, right? Are we going to open the country up to more foreigners?
Right.
Are we going to close it up, and then what's going to happen to other jobs? And all those things, they do matter.
So you would want like a minister of education or a minister of finance?
Like Heng.
Okay,
like
Minister of Finance.
Yeah,
all right.
Sikiat, I want to hear from you. Yeah.
Come on the show.
Come on. Yeah, we really want to talk, because, I'm not out to bash the ministry or out to bash policy, because I get it, it's very complicated as a process, right? I used to think government sucks, but the more I look into these things, the more I realize it is complicated work, but I do think that outreach is lacking, because there's limited parliamentary time to begin with, and people don't really talk about policies anyway out of parliament, right? So a lot of young people are kind of lost in terms of why are we doing this, or what is the long-term strategy, things like how we're going to keep HDB affordable, while I could always just bring some HDB pro, I don't know who's HDB pro, to come in and talk about, but why not just talk to the ministers hey, what's your plan on helping to keep HDB affordable without kind of hurting the guys that have so much equity in HDB, the older people, right? If you depress the prices for the young, then if it affects market prices, then the old guys, they have all their money saved in the HDB, it's going to affect their retirement, right? So these are complex questions that we need to talk to policymakers.
So you want to talk to a policymaker to really learn about what the plans are, what the strategies
how
are
do they
for the
think,
future.
Limited airtime for them out there, so happy to host them and just really chat and be very critical about it, right? Because I think sometimes the mainstream media is just too relaxed with these guys, right? So we're not trying to make life difficult for them, we just really want to grab their heads, what are your thoughts, what do you want to do, right?
Understood. Okay, last question, and we have 2 minutes left. What advice would you give your 17-year-old self if you went back in time?
17, why so specific?
Well, 17 seems like it's before 18, and 18 you're kind of you can vote, and so you're a bit of an adult. I don't know, 17 just seems like it's in the cusp of being young and becoming an adult. So,
So I would 17-year-olds, so I kind of tell them so I do have some young listeners, right? And when I look at them, I kind of see myself, and I'll be like, dude, just chill. Don't need to be in a rush. Yes, because the media is telling you gotta be faster and faster and faster. But if you don't know what you're doing, what you do, it's okay. But be open to explore and be open to take things as we go.
That's great. I mean, the Simin I had on yesterday, her advice to her 17-year-old self was have more fun. So it seems like we're on this trend of relax, have fun, don't rush too much.
Because it's honestly, if you know what you're trying to do, it just gets easier, right? So
all right, perfect, right on time.
Cool stuff.
Thank you.
Cool.